Welcome to the second part out of my tutorial with the title UFT Basics. In this video I'm going to convey some basic understanding of the object repository, for example, the interaction between a shared object repository application area and a business component. Let us start with the local object repository. So when you create a business component, a, a default object repository is available. What do you make with this object repository? Yes, you save everything from an application because a GUI component is there for automated GUI, how it says. So you have the index sites page. By page, it's important that you don't have to take that so literal because a page is more an entity for organization. So it's more organizational than the literal meaning of that you have create for every page you load a new page in your object repository. So you can use it, for example, when you have components which are belonging to some login task, you can create a page called login and include in that some objects like a web edit, a web button, images in this page. Then we have a shared object repository, and the general difference between them is that a shared object repository is available for every component which is included in an application area. So when you have an application area and there you have a shared object repository, each component here, navigate, search entry, add to cart, can access to this object repository. But in general, a shared object repository is the same like a local object repository, with the difference that it's available over the whole application area. So what we're going to make now, we want now to create a new application area and shared object repository, a new component, and in this component we capture some objects from the Amazon web shop. Then finally we add the captured object to the shared object repository. So let us go to UFT and create a new application area. We can say that's our Amazon area, something like that. Now we see here the default view of an application area. We have here object repositories, function libraries, more to function libraries later, and some other settings about add-ins. So here you see no object repository is actually assigned to this area. So we change it and create a new object repository. Add it and with Ctrl S is saved. Now we're going to create a new business command. We choose add because when we say new, the application area is removed from our actual solution. So new business component, scripted component. For the area we choose our shortly created Amazon area. Location, that's not web. And then we say search entry, add. Now we come to our object explorer, object spy, and add a new object from the application. You have first to use to open it. Capture the web edit. You see the border. Add it to the local object repository. Add the web button. Add it to the local object repository. And then we close it. You see now here in the object repository, these two elements are listed. Now we want to merge that with our shared object repository. So when you go to Object Repository Manager over Resources and then Object Repository Manager, you have to open this object repository. Open and then Amazon SOR. You see it's empty. Important is here that in a shared object repository exists something like a version control. You also have to edit this object repository, choose this enable editing. You see that's nothing in it. So we have now to check out. When you don't use version control, it's enough to remove this, to remove the component. Check in. And now we say editing, tools, and then we choose here object repository merge tool. That's one option. We can also to use update from local repository. We choose now update from local repository because by merge you have to create a new object repository and we only want to merge them. Browse for component and we select our component which we create a search entry here. Open, update all, no conflicts found. It's important because when some object exists in both in the shared and in the local, that would be showed here in different object in an object with the same name. We close it and then we say save. Do you want to save this merge and continue? Yes, but we wouldn't continue now. Save, close, and you see the updated view shows in our shared object repository our new site with our new items. So we can now save it, leave it, and how you see here in repository it's grayed out. We have to check out. So when we create now, that represents now the local object repository. When we create now a new business component, add new business component, example, it's a little bit weird name, but it's not for the sense. So when you look now here, the object repository, you see that the objects from the other business components are here too, but they are grayed out. That means that they are stored in the shared object repository. It recognizes that automatically. So when you have write and then copy to local, you could use these objects to locally. Now what we did now, we merged an object repository with a shared object repository. Here, short explanation. So we have our application area and we have created our shared object repository. We have a business component which has default and local object repository. And in the last step, we have merged them both. So that in our shared object repository are now the objects from the local object repository from our business component.